Hi, it's Leanne, and I'm here today with a dual review of Bookworm, a memoir of childhood reading by Lucy Mangan, and Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan, which is by Jessica Townsend. Now, I'm going to start with Bookworm, because Bookworm is a book that it could have been written about me. It is, as it says, a memoir of childhood reading. Lucy Mangan, from the time she was very little, was obsessed with reading. She was never found without a book in her hand, and this is her tribute to those books and her exploration of her life and how both reading shaped her life and also how her family dealt with having this obsessive reader in the family. When I heard about this book, I was really excited about getting it. I have to admit, when I started it, I wasn't sure about it. I think this is me just being very picky. But within the first few pages, there was already kind of silly, jokey, I don't want to say looking down upon, but a sense of crazy people up north, that her family are quite interesting characters, and she seems to put this down to the fact that they're northern, which is something that just doesn't ever sit well with me at all. But like I say, I think that's my personal issue. The other thing was a comment she made when she mentioned that she read her first book to her son when he was 2. And as somebody who's been reading to my children since they were 2 days old, I found that a bit strange. I still find it strange, actually, especially considering how the book continues and what I'm going to talk about. I don't know if that's an editing error or... Yeah, it was quite a strange comment, I thought. But anyway, so the book, it goes through, every chapter goes through a different stage in Mangan's life where we learn about the books that she loved as a child. So starting with picture books with the likes of The Very Hungry Caterpillar, and then moving on to Enid Blyton and Roald Dahl and many, many more. There is a list of all of the books at the back, many of which I have noted down, because it seems like we had very similar tastes, but there was a lot that she mentioned that sounded great that I haven't ever heard of. So yeah, I look forward to digging into those. But yeah, so the book, it does that, but it also talks about her own child and how he doesn't have the appetite for reading that she has. And again, I'll talk about that a little more in a moment. But the moment that this book started to win me over was when Lucy Mangan talked about Dogger. If you don't know Dogger, it is a picture book by Shirley Hughes, and it's an absolutely wonderful book. And as Lucy Mangan says in the book, this is the kind of book that she asks her son, like, do you want to read Dogger tonight? Do you want to read Dogger? And her son's just kind of like, well, yeah, whatever, we can read Dogger. Whereas, she wants him so desperately to adore this book. And I have that exact feeling. My oldest daughter, Lily, she does like Dogger. And she doesn't have the passion for it that I have. But Lola, who's my youngest, nearly on a nightly basis, I'm suggesting, like, oh, well, maybe we could read this tonight. And no, she'd rather have the fairy tale hairdresser. So yeah, so I could completely understand that. And I think at that point I started to think, yeah, this woman gets it. She knows what she's talking about. I still wouldn't say the book is perfect. Like I say, there were a lot of references to her upbringing that that mentioned her crazy northern parents, and that continues throughout the book and never didn't irritate us. I felt like she was going for this really light-hearted, humorous writing style that sometimes did feel forced. Um, and I felt it was a bit overlong, much as I do enjoy reading pages about Sweet Valley High. It probably could have been trimmed down a bit. But saying all that, it is interesting. If you were a bookworm when you were growing up, it will definitely bring back a lot of memories for you. Um, and like I said, the reservations that I've got are probably mostly my own issues. So yeah, so it was a good read. Maybe not as good as I expected, but I enjoyed it. But moving on, I want to talk about the Trials of Morrigan Nevermoor. This you will no doubt have heard about. It is the current biggest middle grade book. It's got a sequel coming out next month. And I read this. What I like to do is I'm always on the lookout for good kind of middle grade books for my oldest daughter Lily. Basically in the hope that I'm going to find the book that she is going to finally become really passionate about and take an interest in above anything else. Now, she does absolutely love Harry Potter. We are currently, finally, almost finished Order of the Phoenix. We have about 150 pages to go. I read that to her every night, and if she doesn't get a Harry Potter fix, she doesn't deal. So being read books, no problem. And, I've read to her every single day of her life. So that's fine, but she would rather play on a tablet, draw, basically do pretty much anything else than actually sit and read a book that isn't a Beano annual herself. So I'm, like I say, always on the lookout for books that I hope will encourage her, that she will get engrossed in and read herself, which is a problem that Lucy Mangan has got, that she is trying to come to terms with the fact that her son likes reading, but it's not the most important thing in his life, which for us bookworms is quite hard to deal with, especially with our own child, where you feel like, how are you not understanding this? You're supposed to be a part of me. Like, how is this not got through? So Nevermoor, I read it, I heard all the hype, so I decided to pick it up. Long story short, I absolutely loved it. I am getting it for Lily for Christmas this year, and I plan to kind of just leave it lying around throughout the whole Christmas holidays in the hope that she will pick it up and get interested in it herself before I have a chance to read it to her, which is obviously her preference. If you have somehow not heard the story, Morrigan is a cursed child. She's 11-year-old and she is doomed to die on her 11th birthday. But when the day of her death comes around, she is rescued by a strange man who is a stranger to her and whisked off to this secret city called Nevermoor, where she is invited to take part in a number of trials to join the Wondrous Society, which is, well, basically the most elite society in the world of this book. So it lends a lot from Harry Potter. It's more of a tribute than a copy. You've got the 11-year-old protagonist. You have the friendships that she builds, and just there are many just little things that you can tell are nods to Harry Potter. But it definitely stands alone as just a really, really exciting story. I completely flew through it. I loved it all. to be honest. I loved the trials that Morrigan had to go through. I loved the mystery that was throughout. A lot of what is happening to Morrigan is held from her and therefore held from the reader as well. And again, it all comes together at the end. And Morrigan Crow is an excellent protagonist. She's definitely her own person, but dealing with a very troubled childhood and the dark thoughts and urges that can come as a result of that. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. I would recommend it to anyone, but especially if you have children, between like the ages of 8 and 12. I feel like this is perfect reading material for them. I am really excited for the sequel. I'm going to be getting my hands on it as soon as I possibly can. But like I say, I am going to buy this for Lily for Christmas and just keep my fingers crossed that it will do the trick and she will grow to appreciate just being deep in a story, in her own head, in this story, as much as I did. So that's that. Definitely Nevermoor, of the two, Nevermoor is the one that I would recommend. But if you're interested in books about, books from your childhood or about your childhood, books for children, both of them are definitely worth picking up. So yeah, I will hopefully be back in a few days with another Man Booker nominee review. If not, I'm sure I'll think of something. But until then, happy reading. Bye bye.